So much of what I find myself doing as a coach is helping leaders take the steps that they already want to take, but maybe they aren't clear enough on exactly what their next step is. And I get to help them walk toward courage, which is, again, one of the great privileges of my life. I absolutely love doing that. But I also want to share things for others who I'm not regularly coaching. So each month I send out something called Taking Steps. And today is unique because I'm physically taking steps. I'm actually in Miami and I'm on the boardwalk today. There's all kinds of noise and action and people running past me today. And so I thought it'd be a good environment to talk about three things that leaders need, specifically three changes leaders need if they're going to lead healthy and high impact for the long haul. The first one is a change of pace. The second one is a change of pressure. And the third one is a change of perspective. So I'm gonna break these down in this video today. I'm gonna talk through those different pieces, but I just wanna say this is something that has been huge for me. This is not me talking in theory, like you should probably do this. This is me feeling fresh at the end of 3 days away, something that I've done many, many times. Now, leaders are always gonna push back at some level. Maybe early in your career, you don't have as much money to spend on getaways. Maybe you can't go to Miami or Breckenridge or fly on a plane somewhere. First of all, I get it. Most of my leadership career, these have been getaways. Maybe it's a friend's cabin or somebody letting you use their home, or maybe you're already on a family vacation and you have to kind of break away early from the family. So I've already gotten up this morning, watched the sunrise, gotten my cappuccino, gone for a walk for several miles. So we've got to get creative with this. This doesn't have to be an expensive thing. This doesn't have to be a privileged thing. And really, sometimes you just need to get away for a full day. So if you get creative, I promise you, you can find a way to bake these three changes in. Let's go. All right, the first change leaders need is a change of pace. Simply, we need to downshift. I don't think most leaders realize just how fast they're going, just how much energy they're pouring out, and just how much stress on maybe a regular week we are under, making the important decisions, doing the next thing. And not just vacation, but an intentional getaway to slow down the pace just puts us in a completely different mindset. I know one of my favorite things to do when I'm away is to wake up whenever. Wake up whenever my body wants to wake up, whenever my body is ready. And often that's still early, like this morning for me. But to not have the demands of the day governing that. What's interesting is that when we slow down our pace, again, we often realize things like I'm going too fast, I'm under too much stress, and it allows us to downshift enough to actually get some clarity. But the number one thing that I see slowing down the pace doing to leaders is restoring capacity. Restoring capacity. Over time, our leadership capacity, our decision-making capacity, our innovation capacity and ideation just goes down. It just slowly goes down and we kind of lose that trickle charge over time. So leaders, if you can slow down the pace, I promise you, you'll get some clarity, but you're actually investing in your capacity over the long haul. The second change that a leader needs is a change of pressure. Something happens when a leader can get away from the environment that feels so pressurized and simply be a human. In fact, it actually hits us on an identity level. This phrase I hear from leaders all the time. Every single week, a leader or two or three will say to me, feels like everyone needs me all the time. And getting away, whether it's by yourself or with your spouse or with a couple of friends, or even with your family, is you can realize that you just get to be a human. And sometimes we forget that we have that ability. And yet deep down, we have so much of that desire. Leadership impacts so much of our identity. And this is a chance to be able to get out of that whirlwind and actually not just depressurize, but remember who we are again. Now, let me talk about pressure for just a moment. Leaders face internal pressure, external pressure, and then a combination, a hybrid of pressure. Sometimes we pressurize the situation way more than we need. Sometimes others pressurize the situation And for most leaders, it's a combination of both. So no matter where we're getting the pressure from, this is a beautiful opportunity to depressurize. And again, where we feel it is in our identity. We actually could come back with more courage from a break like this because we naturally find some clarity, maybe the areas you really are needed, your highest and best use of time. And then you come back with some clarity to go, this isn't my highest and best use of time. And even 2 or 3 days out of that pressurized whirlwind, kind of the tornado of leadership, and you can get some clarity on that. Leader, how can you fight for a change of pressure? How can you get out, even if it's just for a few days, out of the pressurized tornado that you're living in? And the third change that leaders need is a change of perspective. Here's something to think about. Proximity blinds us. When we are so close to something, right? We can't see the forest through the trees, but distance clarifies. And that's the big word that we are constantly getting at in coaching is clarity. So that distance away from our lives, that perspective from our lives, if you've ever been on a plane and look down and see these little lives of these ants that are driving around and commuting and doing the things, kind of feels silly sometimes that we feel so much of the weight and the stress and the pressure. But when we can get distance away, you know, in such a different environment right now, again, people are running and are walking and are on family vacation. And I've already popped into a cafe and people are going to work this morning. And lots of people here in Miami are speaking Spanish. Like, it's a completely different environment from where I live in Colorado. And it allows me to just think very, very clearly. In fact, I'm actually going to go over to a coffee shop to kind of create this, I guess, a clarity document at the end of my time. I'll actually go to a coffee shop and I'll download all the things in my mind that I've been thinking through. And I'll take an hour or two to just kind of put that clarity down on paper. And I think it's really helpful for us to name, okay, here's what I saw differently. Here's how I'm seeing life uniquely because I have distance. Here's the clarity that I have. And then even to name some next steps. If you can go home from this getaway because you have changed the pace and you've downshifted, you've actually changed the pressure, you've depressurized from life and hopefully seen your identity a little bit clearer, who you are, who you're not, your fact that you're not Superman or Superwoman, and the fact that you have basic needs, and you've kind of slowed down, then perspective actually comes naturally at the end of this time. Again, I'm at the end of 3.5 days, and so my job is actually to capture the clarity so that I can move it on to courage. Leader, here's the challenge for you. Put something on the calendar. Put a getaway, whether it's cheap or whether it's expensive, whether it's something that you need to fly on a plane for or something that you can drive an hour away for. Fight for a day. If you could just do a day, start there. But this is something I recommend leaders do between 2 and 4 times a year, is getaways specifically to think about these 3 areas. How do you change your pace? How do you change your pressure? And ultimately, how do you change your perspective? Because we need you to lead healthy and high impact, and that does not happen on accident. Get out of the whirlwind, my friends, and you can return a leader that is leading with clarity and taking your next steps with courage. Keep taking your next right steps.